Alright, so we have an incredible fight here in Bellator. So Douglas Lima versus Yaroslav Amosov. So for Douglas Lima, we'll break down the striking of these two first. For Douglas Lima, he's a Muay Thai practitioner at heart. For sure, he's got devastating low calf kicks, very nice low calf kicks, probably some of the best in MMA at the moment. And he will finish a combination with a low calf kick. He's basically always looking for it. It's definitely one of his main weapons. That and the stiff jab. So stiff jab to get you on the back foot, and then he looks for a low calf kick as well. Those are just the two strikes that he throws most frequently, but he does have a nice counter too as the opponent is closing distance, follows it up with a left hook at times. You know, he puts a lot behind all of his punches. He's sitting down a lot of his strikes. And on the other hand, you know, Amosov, he's very light in his feet. He's very loose in the octagon. He picks his shots very nicely, but he doesn't put a whole lot behind his strikes. But that's fine, you know, like he picks his shots very nicely. He's very loose, and he does have nice combinations on the feet, mixes in his punches with his kicks very well. He's always throwing combinations. He'll enter range with a 1-2, 2-1, 2-3, what have you. 3-4 punch combinations, gets in the pocket, dips out. He will sometimes finish his combination with a kick or a high kick, a body kick or a high kick. And that's what I said before, he mixes it in quite nicely. But just with his strike and entries, you know, he can get a little predictable with his combinations, you know, go into a 1-2 to a body kick or something like that, like a couple times in a row, you know. Like he'll go, he'll mix it up, but like sometimes he can get a little predictable. And he can get caught in range with his hands low. Like his footwork does help him out a lot. He does have good movement, always, you know, light in his toes. He's very nimble. But yeah, he has been caught slacking a little bit in boxing range in previous fights. And it's not something you really want to do against a power puncher like Douglas Lima. And what Amosov's going to look for is probably his wrestling a lot here, once he does feel the power of Douglas Lima. And I think he'll think that's the path of least resistance here. But, you know, Douglas Lima, he does give the openings. He backs up in a straight line. Gegard was backing him up with the jab and feints. He was backing him up right onto the fence, and then he shot the takedown. So I think that's what Amosov's going to look for here. And Amosov, he does have a really nice wrestling game. Really nice chain wrestling. And yeah, just constantly transitioning from position to position. You scramble out of it, doesn't matter. He's going to latch on to something else. He has a nice high crotch single. A lot of the takedowns that he goes for are the single leg or variations of the single leg. He'll grab onto it, you know, turn the corner from there, take the back body lock, wrestling ride, mat returns from there. Also, he'll run the pipe on the single leg. He'll go to a high crotch if, you know, the opponent has good balance. But he just has really nice chain wrestling. And for Douglas Lima, he looks to stuff the takedown, and then as he's pushing off, as he's disengaging, he's going to look for a big right hand bomb, kind of like an uppercut, like a variation of an uppercut on his opponent. And even if they've just fallen over from a leg kick or something like that, and the best example of that would be the MVP knockout, so the Michael Venom Page knockout, is just whenever his opponent's trying to get back to their feet, just boom, big right uppercut. And Douglas Lima, you know, his initial scramble is good. He gets the butterfly hooks in, tries to elevate and sweep the opponent, but, you know, you can control him on bottom. Like, he locks his guard when he's on bottom position. He has a very defensive guard. He's looking to control the wrists, try to, you know, control the hips, just with his guard. But, you know, he's locking your guard on bottom. It's not the move in 2021. And, you know, Amosov, he's a good top player. He's very defensive in guard on top position. You know, he's mainly focused on controlling his opponent instead of, you know, letting off crazy damage and just giving up the position. He will go for ground and pound if he doesn't feel like his opponent has too much off their back, but he's mainly focused on controlling the position. He will advance to side control, look for a Das Anaconda, which he did on Dave Rickles, but yeah, I think he's a pretty good top player. How these guys win fights, so as I alluded to before, Douglas Lima has got devastating leg kicks, very powerful, knows the target very well, knows that where he wants to kick it, and, you know, he's very accurate with them as well. He's also got one punch KO power, as we've seen multiple times. And he's also very hard to finish, you know, he's been finished twice in 40 fights, you know, it's hard to finish this guy. He's got good takedown defense as well, you know, he's got strong hips. You have to chain wrestle him if you do want to get him down. You know, it's not going to be the first attempt that gets him down, it's going to be the second and third. And Yaroslav, I believe, does have that ability. He has very good chain wrestling. I mean, him out-wrestling Logan Storley and Ed Ruth was so goddamn impressive. Like, the guy's got legit wrestling here. And he has good top control. He knows how to control the opponent on top. He's got incredible takedown defense as well. Some of the best I've seen in MMA at currently, you know. He's got very good scrambles as well, and he's very well-rounded. But the thing with Amosov is that he does slow in high-paced fights, and he generally likes to get in high-paced fights. He seems to slow a little bit after the first round and a half, which is just something you can't do in title fights. And I believe this is probably his first main event. It's probably his first 5-rounder, I believe. Well, he's never gone 5 rounds before. I don't think so, but this is going to be his first 5-round fight, and I'm interested to see how his cardio holds up. And for Douglas Lima, it's the fact that he's quite low volume. You know, he picks his shots very carefully, and in turn, he can just be very low volume and get outpointed by just more active fighters. And also the grappling tendencies, which we discussed before. Mostly just locking his guard on bottom. Past the victory for these two, so for Douglas Lima, look for the leg kicks to slow the movement of Amosov, because that's one of his, you know, calling cards, so you want to stop the movement and stop the footwork of Amosov. Also just leg kicks as Amosov is bouncing into range, because, you know, he has that in and out footwork. When he bounces backwards, generally he's going to start bouncing forwards, and then you can time your leg kicks that way. Also uppercuts when he shoots, look to punish him after you do stuff a takedown. And for Amosov, look to stay light on your feet, ready to move that lead leg out of the way, like get ready to, if you're going to check the kick, that's fine, but also just shuffle the lead leg back out of the way, because he generally doesn't follow his leg kicks up with too much, so you can afford to be off balance for a little bit by moving the lead leg out of the way. I think that's fine, honestly. Also look to get him on the back foot, same as Gegard Mousasi did. Look to feint a lot, frequently switch your stance. But yeah, look for the wrestling. Look for the driving double over a leg kick, and just focus on top control. Winning the minutes just in top position, and just controlling him against the fence. You know, clinch offense, knees to the body. That's somewhere we've seen Douglas Lima get control before. And for Douglas Lima, if you do get taken down, look for butterfly hooks immediately to create a scramble, even just if you're being controlled. Like, if you're just, you know, on your back, just always look for butterfly hooks. Don't accept bottom position. Alright, so how I see this fight going. So, you know, definitely, yeah, Yaroslav Amosov, he's definitely got one of the best records on paper today. Probably the best record on paper from active fighters. No matter how you cut it, 25-0 in MMA, and that's impressive. And 6-0 at a major organisation, it's definitely worthy of respect. Sure, he's crushed a few cans on the regional scene, but, you know, who hasn't? And he's definitely proven himself in Bellator. And for sure, I think he could give some ranked guys in the UFC some serious problems. But he's also run into one of the best fighters in the world outside of the UFC in Douglas Lima. And, you know, Douglas Lima is a very good fighter. He's definitely the cleaner striker here, and I do believe he has the speed and the power advantage. Amosov certainly does have some tendencies that could get him KO'd on the feet against a power hitter like Lima, as we mentioned before. But the thing with Douglas Lima is that he's just so low volume, you know. And Amosov, he's going to be throwing combinations. He's going to be using his footwork to evade and then back into range with combinations. Whereas Douglas Lima is looking for that big shot. He's looking for that big leg kick. And at most, he'll chain a combination together of maybe 2 strikes, 3 if you're lucky. So I believe Amosov will have some success early on the feet against Lima, but, you know, the accumulated damage to that lead leg plus the head of Amosov, I feel like it's going to be slowly but surely piling up. And, you know, dealing with Douglas Lima's leg kicks for 25 minutes and 5 rounds, it's got to be tough, man. And Douglas Lima's takedown defense has improved leaps and bounds recently in the last few years, but if you do get him on his back, like, he's pretty content just to stay down there for long periods of time. And Yaroslav, his wrestling is super high level. His takedown defense and use of scrambles to defend the takedowns is some of the best I've ever seen. His offensive wrestling is fantastic too, chain wrestles well, which is what is necessary to get a guy like Douglas Lima down. And even if, you know, Amosov does get Lima down, he's got to work, because sometimes he'll just kind of lay in his opponent's guard and look to recoup his energy. But, you know, Lima, he does have a decent guard game. He will look for submission elbows if he is on bottom, so you can't really rest there. However, like, for Douglas Lima, you're not going to win too many rounds if you spend a large chunk of it in bottom position. So, you know, the advantage just by default really just goes to the top position player, but Amosov, he just needs to land a few, and then he's basically won the round at top position. But the thing with Amosov is that he gasses after 2 rounds if you make him work in the grappling exchanges, which I believe Lima will certainly do. And you don't want to be tired at the start of the 3rd round against a guy like Douglas Lima. Like, Amosov's footwork, it's going to start to become a little more predictable. It's going to be leading to greater success with the low kicks for Douglas Lima. Also, it'll be harder for him to exert the energy to complete his takedowns, which I believe is necessary for him to win the fight. But that being said, like, that's the X factor here. If Amosov had decent cardio, he'd be an insta pick for me here, and an insta bet for me here at the price that he's at the moment. I've never really got the love for Douglas Lima that, fans give him. To me, he's a very boring fighter, very low volume, very low action, only throws a few techniques. Sure, his leg kicks are phenomenal, but, it's just not the most exciting fighter to watch. And just watching footage on his last few fights legit made me sleepy. Maybe legit drowsy. Just watching his past few fights. And he just always finds himself in really boring fights. And, Amosov is an action fighter, so I believe he's going to bring out the best of Douglas Lima. But yeah, just the problem I have with betting Lima as the favourite is that he won't fight for your money. Like in the championship rounds in the first Rory McDonald fight and the Gegard Mousasi fight, the guy locked his guard on bottom when he was clearly down the scorecards and he just seemed pretty content with dropping the fight and even losing his belt in the Rory McDonald fight. So I don't know if he's championship material. Definitely wouldn't be the champ in the UFC, but it is what it is. Ultimately though, I do believe Lima will retain his belt, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I think he's going to be able to stuff the takedowns, scramble out of enough takedowns to gas Yaroslav out before the 3rd round, maybe during the 3rd round. And even if Yaroslav does take the first 2 rounds on activity and, grappling pressure, positional control, I believe the damage is going to be, piling up on Yaroslav, and I can see Lima getting a late finish. I believe Lima will start having more success on the feet later on in the fight because the takedowns of Amosov will become easier to defend and the footwork will become easier to read. But, yeah, let's have a look at the betting lines. Alright, so the prediction is Lima by TKO round 4. I favour him around 55 to 60% of the time. I think the line is basically correct. Pretty much should be where it is. I think it looks like it's turning into a pick'em, but yeah. If Lima got to $1.83 or minus 120, I'd bet Lima. If Amosov got to $2.55, which I think he was at one point, but I missed a chance to bet that. And if he got to, $2.55 or plus 155, I'd bet Amosov. But yeah, at the rate it's going at the moment, looks like I'm probably going to be betting Lima. Also, just a live bet on Lima after round 1 or 2. If he's making Amosov work for the takedowns, if he's not just locking his guard on bottom, and the fight is being fought at a decent pace, not a very slow, Douglas Lima-like pace, then I'd probably bet Douglas Lima.